Some of the kindest people I know are carrying anxiety, burnout, and emotional exhaustion. Not because they're unkind, but because they've confused kindness with responsibility. And today, we're untangling the difference. Do you want to achieve your goals, but anxiety is tripping you up? Like to keep those fun weekend plans, but depression has you canceling again? Hey, I'm Lori, dog mom, lover of nature, and hygge enthusiast. Positive psychology skills help me overcome chronic severe PTSD. If you're ready to learn how to overcome your anxiety and depression and rediscover happiness and purpose in life, then get your cozy on and let's get started. Welcome back to Practical Solutions for PTSD. Have you ever looked at someone and thought, how do they keep going through all of that? Not because their life is easy, not because they never struggle, but because when challenges show up, they seem to have something inside of them that helps them keep moving forward. For years, I thought these people simply had something I didn't, like more discipline, more confidence, more resilience, more courage, more skills, more something. Then I discovered something that surprised me. We all have strengths, not skills or talents or things that we're good at because we practice them, but the character strengths that we are born with, the qualities that come naturally to us, things like perseverance, kindness, hope, curiosity, creativity, leadership, humor, love of learning, and the list could go on. The problem is most of us are so focused on our weaknesses and trying to develop those and correct those and make them better that we never learn how to use our strengths intentionally. And you've been given those strengths for a reason and a purpose. So I spent years asking myself, what is wrong with me? How come I can't do what they're doing? Why is anxiety so hard for me to handle? Or why does stress hit me so differently than other people? Why can't I seem to accomplish the things I want to accomplish? Why do strategies work for someone else but not for me? And the turning point came when I stopped focusing on fixing myself and started understanding myself better and what worked with me instead of against me. I learned that some of the tools I was trying to use was just against my natural wiring. It's not how my brain thinks. And once I began working with my strengths instead of against them, things started to change. Now, trust me, challenges did not disappear, but I had a roadmap. I had things to tap into to help me. I knew that there were strengths that I had that I could lean on to help me through those difficult times. And that is what I help other people figure out. What are those strengths that you have? How can you lean into them to help you overcome the obstacles that you're facing? Because it's not your lack of ability that's the hardest thing for you right now. It may simply be that no one has shown you how to use the strengths you already possess and to use them effectively and intentionally to help you with your challenges. So if this is something you would like to lean more into and figure it out a little better for yourself, you can reach out to practicalsolutionsforptsd.com/breakthrough, schedule an anxiety and depression breakthrough session with me. We can go through, figure out what your strengths are, how to intentionally use them to specifically address the challenges that you're facing, and come up with a plan and a roadmap. So just go to practicalsolutionsforptsd.com/breakthrough and schedule your first anxiety and depression breakthrough session with me today. So as you can imagine, after that, that we are picking up on our Not Broken Equipped series to talk about another one of the character strengths. And we're still in the humanities, so or the strengths of the heart. And last time we talked about love. Today is kindness. These two strengths in particular, if you don't guard them and protect them, can very easily lead into burnout because these are the two that where you're pouring out into the lives of other people. And honestly, you could probably get burnout from all the character strengths if you overdid it. I hadn't really sat down and thought about it, but I'm sure you could in whatever specific way that strength impacts your life. But these in particular, if you're an overgiver or if you are involved in working with people at all on a consistent basis, these two, if not done carefully can very easily lead into burnout if you don't have some boundaries in place, which we've been talking a lot about boundaries lately. But this is one of those character strengths that really needs some boundaries in place. And you'll learn this as we go through it. Now, kindness is often misunderstood as constantly giving, always helping, putting other people first above the needs of your own. So, for people living with PTSD, anxiety, depression, seasonal depression, that kind of kindness can feel so exhausting or even unsafe, especially if this was at all connected with the trauma that you are recovering from. So, let's begin by reframing this a little bit. Kindness is not about overextending yourself. It is not about being liked or proving your worth. It's not measured by how much you give or how visible your acts are. At its healthiest, kindness is small, intentional, compassionate action towards others while honoring your own limits. And that part is really important, while honoring your own limits. So sometimes kindness can be this really big act, and other times it could be something small, something you do quietly on the side without really pulling a lot of attention to it. Can be just as simple as giving someone a smile. Both are valid exercises of this character strength. But kindness is the ability to act with compassion, empathy, and consideration for others. And man, do we ever need that in our world today. From a trauma informed perspective, kindness begins with safety and self awareness. So making sure that when you're doing this act of kindness, you're doing it safely, that you're not getting yourself into trouble, and that you're aware of yourself, your boundaries, your limits, etc. Now, trauma can make us wary of other people's needs. We're a little scared to try to help them. But on the flip side of that, it can also push us to give in ways that compromise our boundaries. And that can lead to a lot of trouble eventually. So true kindness is there's three things. One, you're attuned. You notice when someone needs support. It doesn't mean that you notice every single time. You may completely miss one moment and see the next one very clearly. So it doesn't mean you're catching everything, but you're attuned in that moment. True kindness is also intentional because you're choosing actions that are safe and meaningful. And third, true kindness has boundaries. Giving without sacrificing yourself because you need to be sustainably faithful. Sustainable faithfulness. This is the goal, sustainable faithfulness, which is why it's really important that you have boundaries around kindness. Kindness is a tool for connection, it's not a weapon of obligation. It is a gentle way to show care without overextending your nervous system. And this can show up in your everyday life. It can be just really easy things like listening fully without trying to fix the other person. Now, honestly, this can be kind of hard sometimes because you have all these wonderful ideas that pop into your head and these solutions you want to give. And sometimes that is needed. But other times, people just want a safe place to talk without judgment, without being fixed. And offering that, huge kindness. That's actually not a little one, that's a big one. Offering small acts of help. This could be opening the door, giving a massage, fixing a cup of tea. Yay, tea for me, coffee for others. Could be a smile. Like a genuine smile from you can make such a difference in someone's day. You have no idea. There's a lot of hurting people out there. And being kind and extending that smile, a genuine act of kindness, can go so far in helping people today. The third thing is holding space for someone else's feelings without judgment. Again, sometimes this can be hard because you have to suspend that judgment for a time, but just letting them be, just like, this is how I feel. And you're like, oh, you feel what? No, just let them feel. It's okay. Just let them feel in that moment. And don't judge the feeling. Feelings are data. I've said this before. Feelings are data. It's just information that's coming in that tells you something about what's going on. So you can listen to those feelings without providing judgment. The fourth thing is offering encouragement or acknowledgement. I mean, just coming by, say, man, you did such a beautiful job arranging those flowers. It's just gorgeous. Or wow, you do so good at performing this whatever task it is. I love the way you mowed the yard today. It is just beautiful. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So just some acknowledgement and then encouraging people that are struggling or maybe facing a huge challenge, coming up alongside them and let them know that you're praying for them, you're thinking about them, you have their back, whatever that may be, but just some acknowledge and encouragement. So, for people with anxiety, kindness can regulate your nervous system. And this is really cool because sometimes when you're anxious, you're struggling with depression, dealing with trauma, your world can be very small and internalized because you're dealing with all these emotional battles. It's hard sometimes to think of something outside of that. But if you can take just a couple minutes, and petting a dog would be one of them. And thankfully, I have a dog. But petting a dog can help. Smiling at someone, doing a small act of kindness for somebody else for just a little bit, it breaks that inward spiral where you're struggling with that anxiety and actually decreases your cortisol levels and regulates your nervous system a little bit. Isn't that the coolest thing? So, even if kindness is not one of your signature strengths, this is a fantastic way of intentionally using it to help you regulate your nervous system. For people with depression, small acts of kindness, like toward a neighbor, a pet, a friend, can help break that sense of isolation and foster meaning. And I mean, this can be like super small. My neighbor sometimes, when she's out bringing the garbage cans back after trash day, she'll grab mine and wheel it back to the garage. It's nothing major. It's like literally a minute of her time, but it's just really kind, and it helps foster that relationship between us as neighbors. So it doesn't have to be big, but it really helps break some of that isolation and provides a sense of connection. For seasonal depression, kindness may be slow and subtle. Could be leaving a note for somebody, sending a kind message, preparing a meal, anything like this. But kindness, it needs to be intentional care and not a performance. Now, I've actually alluded to this a couple times, but kindness, when it is misapplied, overused, it can become self sacrifice that leads to burnout. And this is part of the dark side of kindness. It could lead to people pleasing to avoid conflict or rejection. It could leave you feeling guilty or shame for not doing enough, like I should be doing more, even though maybe your 100% today is not what it used to be. And so you're giving all that you can give, you're just not able to give as much as you used to. And so you struggle with that feeling of not being able to be enough for the people around you. You may not have all that to give. Give what you have. But the dark side of kindness is it can lend to that I'm not doing enough. Another thing is it can lead you to neglecting your own boundaries in the name of caring. And this has come up more than once in this episode today. Boundaries are so important. It is so important, especially for these kind of strengths, that you are guarding and protecting the most important resource you have, which is your time and energy and your calling, that you are protecting that and guarding it so that you can show up where you're supposed to be at your 100% and not just bringing the crumbs. You need to be able to protect that and guard that. So for trauma survivors, kindness can sometimes feel risky, especially if previous attempts for care were met with criticism, rejection, or abuse. So even when if you've been through trauma and it's connected to this at all, and this is your character strength, it's going to make that the hurt deeper because it's something that speaks very deeply to you, and it's going to make it harder to reach out again. But I encourage you to take just small steps. Don't take these huge leaps and these ginormous acts, little tiny ones, and it will help rebuild some of that trust. For anxiety, acts of kindness can become compulsive because you're driven by fear of disapproval rather than genuine care. You don't want the people upset with you, so you do all this, but it isn't really coming from intentional acts of kindness and care. It's coming from a compulsion of safety, which if you're in that position where you need to do that to stay safe, it's okay. It's okay. It's not a sustainable way to live. So you want to try to find a way out of that sooner rather than later. For depression, the absence of energy may make kindness feel out of reach. Like, I just can't do that right now. I don't have the energy to do that right now. I used to be able to do da 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 da, da, and you list this whole big long thing that you used to do to be able to reach into the lives of other people with acts of kindness, and you just can't. And so it brings shame and self criticism. And people, I've been there. I've been there. I used to be able to go out and like take kids out to play for 2 or 3 hours and give their parents a break. I remember one year when I was going through college and I had no money. Like I could not do any of this Christmas stuff, but I had time because it was between semesters. And so I told all the young parents in our church, I'm like, bring your kids, I'll babysit them all while you go Christmas shopping. And that was my gift to them. There is no way I could do that for years. I mean, for years, it would have driven me completely bonkers and insane. There's no way I could have done that. And you can really struggle with shame because you're not able to give the way you used to give. And it can lend itself to self criticism because, again, I can't do this and I should be able to do this. I used to be able to do this and now I can't. Let me just really speak a word of encouragement into your life today. It's okay that you can't do it right now. 9 times out of 10, the people in your life are going to understand that you're in a place that you just can't. And it's all right. They're going to understand that. The beautiful thing is, as you heal and come out of the darkness, you'll be able to do it again. That's the exciting thing. And when you choose to do it again, there's so much meaning to that. And it's so exciting to be able to give again when you're in the place to be able to do it. It'll come back. Just give it some time. I promise. With some healing and some time, you'll be able to do it again. It will come back. So don't shame yourself because you can't do it right now. Don't be super critical of yourself. Just know that when your system is regulated again, when you're in a safe space, you'll be able to do that kindness again. And maybe you can start with just really tiny things like opening a door for somebody or giving them a genuine smile or writing them a small note. These are just little small things that when you have the energy to do it again, you can start there. Just start with the small stuff. Kindness is safest and most meaningful when it is paired with self awareness, choice, and boundaries. So, going back to if you're not able to do that, that's a big piece of self awareness. And you can figure out maybe when you have some time, you can figure out something that you can do. Maybe something really tiny, just send someone a text. Or even if they don't ever know about it, you could spend some time praying for them or whatever it could be, just something small. It can be a small thing. But you're pairing it with self-awareness so you understand that you're making this choice, you are choosing, and you have boundaries around it to protect yourself and your resources of time and energy. So, how does kindness directly support PTSD, anxiety, and depression? Now, we've talked about this a lot already because it's a really good one for this. But specifically for PTSD, kindness brings a sense of safety and or a safe form of social connection. Because with PTSD, you can feel like it's really hard to connect to other people. And kindness is a great way to span that and to be able to connect. And again, it could just be small ones, but it can help restore some trust in other people and reinforce your own agency because you're choosing to do this. So it can really help with that. And again, start small. For anxiety, kindness, I talked about this already, but it interrupts that hypervigilance where you're just completely freaking out. It helps redirect that attention to an outward place that's safe and intentional. So, you choose to pet the dog, you choose to open the door, you choose to give them a batch of cookies or whatever it is. You're making a choice and it's outside of yourself. So it calms that nervous system down a little bit and creates some safety in your relationships. For depression, kindness, even in tiny moments, again, just those tiny itty bitty moments, helps restore meaning and engagement. Because when you're depressed like that and you don't have the energy to engage, can feel very isolating and lonely. Um, but it's okay. Don't go down the guilt trip way. There's no need for that. When you have a moment, when you have some strength, you have some energy, that reconnection can really help you to those tiny, tiny moments can help restore meaning and engagement in your life and break a little bit of that isolation. For seasonal depression, kindness can be very grounding practice. It can help you in with that those low energy moments. You can have acts to help maintain connection and rituals through darker months. And this really fits so nicely into hygge, which is placed at the way to bring calm into your life. But one of the big things about hygge is connecting through relationships, and this is a perfect way to do that. It helps ground you in the moment, breaks that depression up a little bit. Now, I don't want you to get the idea that kindness eliminates suffering, because it doesn't. It can help, though. It creates a break in it, and it gives you a little bit of support and shared safety in your relationships, that can help you through that. And sometimes all you need is those little tiny breaks. I know when I was going through some of the darkest times in my life, God would give me little tiny windows that I would see a ray of hope. And man, I would hold on to that with both hands as tight as I could, because it was just tiny moments that I would feel connected to somebody, that I would hear God's voice, or I'd feel safe, or feel encouragement, or feel hope. Whatever it was, those tiny windows can really help you when you're struggling in the dark. Now, there's some ways you can make some intentional ways to develop kindness. And I've mentioned a lot of these. I'm going to go through them pretty quickly. But even if kindness is not one of your signature strengths, but you see the benefit of it, you hear the benefit, and you want to be able to take part in this, you can do these to develop it in yourself. So one is start small. We've talked about this. So it could be a thoughtful word, a smile, a gesture. Those micro actions really add up. Number 2 is to pair kindness with boundaries. Again, we've talked about this a lot, so I'm not going to go really deep into this, but sometimes the kindest thing you can do to someone is say no. If you don't have the capacity to fulfill what they're asking you to do, it's actually kinder to tell them no. So pair kindness with boundaries. Number 3 is to choose intention over obligation. Notice why you're acting. Is it genuine care or pressure and guilt? And then adjust accordingly. Number 4 is to practice self-kindness. Oh, wow, this is important. So often we are, we're much kinder to other people than we can be to ourselves. We can hold ourselves, well, depending on your personality, sometimes we can hold ourselves to a higher standard, and even an unreasonably high standard, much more so than we do other people. And we're much more critical to ourselves, negative self-talk, all of that. So take a moment and think of what you would do if your best friend or your child or whatever, family member, someone that you love, was in the position that you were in right now. What would you say to them? How would you treat them? And then treat yourself with the same compassion you extend to others. Because this is really important, and this is why boundaries is so critical to this character strength. You cannot pour out to others from an empty cup. At some point, you're going to have to fill yourself up. And some of this can be done in a place of prayer, in a place of worship and praise for those of you that follow Christ. But some of this is also done by some self-care and self-kindness. So it's really important. Kindness thrives when it's safe, chosen, and sustainable. Sustainable faithfulness. Yay! All right, so we're going to wrap this up, but just remember, kindness is not obligation. It is compassionate, intentional actions that nurture connection while respecting limits. If kindness feels distant right now, that doesn't mean strength is gone. It may simply mean that resting, waiting for safety, gentleness, and intention, it'll come back. Just give it some time and it'll be okay. And we'll end with this reflection that you can take with you. What is one small, safe act of kindness that you can offer this week, either to yourself or to someone else, that feels nourishing rather than draining? One small act of kindness. You don't need to act immediately. Just pay attention to what comes up when you think about it. And then at some point this week, do your best to put it into action. If you would like some help in mapping out your character strengths and how you can use them in your everyday life to turn on your superpowers, go to practicalsolutionsforptsd.com/breakthrough and schedule your appointment today. Hey, my friend, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, would you please take 30 seconds and share it with someone you know who may be struggling with depression and anxiety? Also, would you please leave a quick review for the show? Knowing how this podcast is helping you fills my heart with so much joy, and it motivates me for future episodes. For now, it's time for Sam and I to head outside to enjoy some sunshine and fresh air. We'll see you back here on Tuesdays and Thursdays for more great episodes.